What if I told you that one of the biggest acquisitions in Chicago Bears history isn't just protecting our quarterback, but he's literally becoming the blueprint for how this entire offensive line operates? Stay with me until the end, because what I'm about to reveal will completely change how you see this team's transformation. Hey Bears Nation, welcome back to Bears News Fan Report, your go-to source for all the latest updates and insider rumors about our beloved Chicago Bears. I'm your host, and today, I've got something special that's going to blow your mind about how this organization is building something truly special. But before we dive in, let me ask you something. When was the last time you saw a Bears offensive line that actually looked dominant? I know, it's been a while, right? Well, buckle up, because what's happening right now in Hollis Hall is nothing short of revolutionary. Let me take you back to when this whole story began, because context matters. When the offseason started, everyone knew the Bears had glaring needs. The offensive line had been a disaster for years, and we all watched Caleb Williams running for his life week after week in college. The front office knew they couldn't let that happen in Chicago. They needed to protect their franchise quarterback, and they needed to do it fast. So when rumors started swirling about potential moves, Bears fans like you and me were glued to our phones, refreshing Twitter every 5 minutes, hoping for some good news. And then it happened. News broke that sent shockwave through the entire NFL community. The Kansas City Chiefs, fresh off another Super Bowl run, were in a bind. Despite their success on the field, they were facing serious salary cap issues. Championship teams always face this problem eventually. You pay your stars, you reward your core players, and suddenly you're up against the cap with tough decisions to make. The Chiefs had to make a move, and it was going to be painful. They have built one of the most dominant offensive lines in football, the kind of unit that gave Patrick Mahomes all day to throw and opened massive holes in the running game. But something had to give, and that's when the Bears front office saw an opportunity that doesn't come around very often. Now, you have to understand something about how rare this situation was. Elite offensive linemen, especially guards who've proven themselves at the highest level, simply don't become available. These guys are the foundation of your offense. They're the ones who make everything else work. When a team has a truly elite guard, they hold on to him for dear life. But the Chiefs were in a unique position where they had to make a choice between keeping their veteran presence or securing their younger talent for the future. It was a Sophie's choice situation, and ultimately, they decided they needed that cap space to lock down some of their emerging stars. That's when Ryan Poles and his staff made their move. The Bears were shocked when they heard that this particular player might actually be available. We're talking about a 4-time Super Bowl champion, an all-pro guard who had been the anchor of one of the league's best offensive lines for years. This wasn't some aging veteran looking for one last payday. This was a player still in his prime, still performing at an elite level, and suddenly he could be wearing navy and orange. The front office didn't hesitate. They knew this was the kind of move that could transform their entire offensive line room, not just because of what he could do on the field, but because of what he could teach everyone around him. When the trade went through and Joe Thuney became a Chicago Bear, the reaction was electric. Finally, the Bears had addressed their most glaring weakness with a legitimate superstar. Thuney wasn't just going to fill the troublesome left guard spot that had been a revolving door of mediocrity for years. He was going to bring something this team desperately needed: championship pedigree and veteran leadership. Think about it. How many players on this roster had won a Super Bowl before Thuney arrived? Now we had a guy who had 4 rings, who had blocked for Patrick Mahomes in the biggest moments, who knew exactly what it took to win at the highest level. That kind of experience is invaluable, especially for a young team trying to build a winning culture. 10 games into the season, and I can tell you without hesitation that Joe Thuney has exceeded even the most optimistic expectations. When you watch the film, and trust me, I watched every snap multiple times, you see a player who is operating on a completely different level. His pass protection has been absolutely elite. We're talking about a brick wall that opposing defensive linemen simply cannot get around. The technique, the footwork, the hand placement, everything is textbook perfect. And it's not just about individual performance. The entire offensive line has elevated their game since Thuney arrived, and that's not a coincidence. But here's where the story gets really interesting, and this is the part that most fans don't know about. What's happening behind the scenes is even more impressive. than what we're seeing on Sunday. Head coach Ben Johnson and his staff recognized early on that they had a unique opportunity with Thuney on the roster. They realized that having a player of his caliber wasn't just about what he could do during games. It was about how they could use his expertise to develop every single player in that offensive line room. And they came up with something brilliant, something that's transforming how this entire unit operates. Every week during film session, something special happens. The coaching staff breaks down game footage like every team does, analyzing what went right and what went wrong. But with Thuney on the roster, they've added an extra element. His blocking clips have become teaching material, shown in position meetings, offensive unit meetings, and sometimes even to the entire team. We're talking about textbook examples of perfect technique, ideal hand placement, flawless footwork. It's become what the staff calls teach tape, and it's having a profound impact on how younger players are developing. Think about what this means for guys like Theo Benedette and Darnell Wright. These are young offensive linemen who are still learning the nuances of playing in the NFL. Now they have the opportunity to watch a future Hall of Famer operate every single week, not just in practice, but in detailed film breakdowns. They can see exactly how Thuney approaches different defensive fronts, how he adjusts his technique based on the opponent, how he maintains consistency regardless of the situation. That kind of education is priceless, and you simply can't replicate it without having someone of Thuney's caliber on your roster. Process doesn't stop after the Monday film review either. Throughout the week, from Wednesday to Friday during installation periods, more clips of Thuney's technique are presented to the team. The coaching staff uses his performance as the standard, the example of exactly what they want to see from every player on that offensive line. And here's the thing, Thuney might not produce the viral pancake blocks that get millions of views on social media. He's not the guy who's going to bury a defender into the turf in spectacular fashion. But what he does is even more valuable. He's a model of consistency and technical perfection. And that's what wins football games. One of the offensive coaches put it perfectly when discussing their approach to teaching. They emphasized that the staff harps on details constantly with every position group, because those details are such a huge part of what makes an offense successful. You can never ignore the fundamentals, because that's where games are won and lost. So, whenever they have visual evidence of perfect technique, of exactly what they want something to look like, they highlight it. They paint that player in a positive light to his teammate, and they use it to shape how everyone thinks about blocking schemes and techniques. That's exactly what they're doing with Joe Thuney. And the results speak for themselves. The offensive line has become more fundamentally sound as the season has progressed. You can see it in how they work together, in their communication, in their execution. Watching Thuney operate on film every week has had a ripple effect throughout the entire unit. Sure, you might not be able to emulate his power or his quickness. Those are physical attributes that not everyone possesses, but there should never be an issue copying his technique. That's something every player can work on and improve. And that's exactly what's happening in Chicago. Looking ahead, this has implications that go far beyond this season. Joe Thuney is building a legacy in Chicago that will last long after he retires. And speaking of retirement, when that day eventually comes, he's got a spot waiting for him in Canton. 4 Super Bowl rings, multiple All-Pro selections, and a career defined by excellence. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see him back in football as an offensive line coach someday. His mastery of blocking technique is as good as you'll ever see, and he clearly has the ability to teach it to others. The Bears were smart enough to recognize that and use it to their advantage right now. This is what championship organizations do. They don't just acquire talent. They maximize it. They find ways to extract every ounce of value from their players, both on the field and in the meeting room. The Bears are showing that they understand this principle, and it's one of the most encouraging signs for the future of this franchise. We're not just building a team that can compete this year. We're building a culture of excellence that will sustain success for years to come. And Joe Thuney is a huge part of that foundation. So when you watch the Bears play this week, pay attention to number 62. Watch how he moves, how he positions himself, how he consistently wins his matchups without making it look flashy. That's what elite offensive line play looks like, and it's something Bears fans haven't been able to say for far too long. But more importantly, recognize that his impact goes way beyond those 60 minutes on Sunday. He's shaping the future of this offensive line, teaching the next generation of Bears blockers, and helping build something special in Chicago. Now I want to hear from you, because this is your team too. What do you think about how the coaching staff is using Thuney as a teaching tool? Do you see the improvement in the offensive line's technique as the season progresses? And looking ahead, how important do you think this kind of veteran leadership will be as we continue building toward championship contention? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because I read every single one and I love hearing different perspectives from Bears Nation. Before we wrap up, if you want to stay on top of every development with your Chicago Bears, this is the channel you need. Hit that subscribe button right now, smash the notification bell so you never miss an update, and share this video with every Bears fan you know. Here at Bears News Fan Report, I'm committed to bringing you in-depth analysis, insider information, and the kind of content that goes beyond the surface-level headlines. This is where serious Bears fans come for serious Bears coverage. I'll see you in the next video with more news about our beloved team. Bear down!